Warning. The following program contains language not suitable for younger listeners. And spoilers. You have been warned.
Now beamed from the fortified bunker below Culver City, California, this is Well, That Happens Movie Review.
There were four of us, but two of us had to be excused from the garage. So we put up black plastic and told them we were going to spray for bugs. It was then we discovered the past and the future were one.
And that is just some of the narration that you would listen to watching the 2004 movie Primer, starring Shane Carruth as Aaron, David Sullivan as Abe, and a whole bunch of other people that don't fucking matter. The IMDb description is, two small-time engineers trip upon an invention that far surpasses their aspirations.
Alrighty, so this was my pick for the week, Primer. I picked this movie because I thought it would be interesting to get your take on a movie that was written, produced, acted by, he did production design, set design, all sorts of things. This one guy, editing, sound design, even composed the music for the movie. And there was a few other people involved, but that was pretty much it. He did everything and got this movie up. And I wanted to get your take on this very low budget sci-fi movie. So, Sam, what did you think of Primer?
I don't know what to think of Primer. It is an interesting concept. The acting was very stiff at first. The look of the film, it's very low budget. It looks like Clerks Part 1. I thought it was going to be in black and white. It's just kind of like a very drab looking film. By the end of the movie, I hated it. I hated it with a passion because while the concept was interesting, like I said, everything else fell apart for me. My biggest complaint that I had so far of the film was the opening sequence with the overlapping conversations, because it's just something that doesn't happen in film too often, and it was very distracting. But I was not a fan of the film by the end of it. I was so lost and confused by what was going on. I couldn't keep track of what timeline they were on, what they were doing, what the hell was Abe into, what the hell was Aaron into, what were their end games. By the end, I was like, I just don't give a fuck. Hands up in the air, and I just don't care. Wow, that was bad.
Alrighty. Todd, what did you think of Primer?
When I went to this movie, I had really high expectations because I had heard a lot about it and I was very excited about the idea of this film. I recognized that Shane Carruth made this movie for about $7,000 budget. They only took 2 takes for every shot because that was all the film they had. Their $7,000 budget, the majority of it went to buying their film stock and for their equipment and shooting, because it was made by Shane Carruth and all of his friends, who, by the way, was an engineering student who had an idea for film travel, or for time travel. He'd never made a film before, so this is his first time. I was very excited about this, very excited about the idea behind this, the idea of the scientist making a time travel movie. That being said, the movie started, and I was immediately annoyed because of the overlapping conversation, because of how yellow everything looked. And it took me about 15 minutes to actually get into the film. However, once I caught on to the rhythm of the words and the way it all worked, and the limitations of the technicalities of it, I found that I genuinely enjoyed the film, and I actually liked it quite a bit. I thought the storyline was interesting. I thought it delved neatly into the different psyches of the different characters, sort of the two hangers-on and then the Shane Carruth character and the Abe character, and how they were both on sort of opposite sides on what they could be doing with the time travel device. The one was using it, basically for some personal gain, but nothing major, very, very low-key gain. And the other one wanted to basically take over the world, it seemed like, by the end of it. And at the end, they had a parting of the ways. It was very interesting for a film without any violence or a lot of action, that it was able to keep me engaged to the end, because I always wanted to know what would happen and what they were going to do. I found myself really enthralled by it, and I would like to see what this guy can do with a budget and a script doctor. So I gave it a 4.
So I heard about this movie a few months ago from a friend of mine. I had started watching it. It was interesting. The concept was cool. I understand what you guys are saying about the overlapping conversation, although that didn't bother me nearly as much, just because I feel like that's the way real people talk, and people overlap. And you're trying to catch up, and I feel like there was like this brainstorming session. I felt like I was in the middle of a brainstorming session with these guys just talking, and you're just trying to catch up, and eventually it starts coming together, and you're starting to get, okay, I get it. And then as the time travel begins to happen, I understand. For me, the plot starts to unravel again by the end, and I just got very lost and very confused. Overall, the writing was very interesting up until the end when it started to get very confusing, and the time travel it was happening so much, I couldn't keep track of who was who and what time, and there was some narration there were some weird scenes and some weird cuts, and I couldn't tell if that was part of the time travel aspect with the narration. It just started getting very muddied and muddled by the end, and by the end of the movie, while I understood they were there, they helped this one girl/guy at this party stop a shotgun wielding incident that they had talked about earlier in the film. Other parts, like this killing each other parts, like this part where they're poisoning, like it just started getting confusing, and I just couldn't tell who was who and who was in what time frame, what period. That said, I agree with you, Todd. I think if this guy had a little bit more budget and a little bit more streamlined script doctor, I think it could have been a fantastic film. All the technicalities aside, because here's the thing, technical-wise, it was not good. You could tell it was the guy's first film. There was the film. He should not have used film. Personally, I would not have used film if I were him. Would have gone with video, spent a little bit more money on a better camera. The film stock didn't work for him. It was very grainy. It seemed like he was using a very old type of film stock, and it just didn't work.
You need more lighting.
Need more lighting, absolutely. I was telling Haley I thought it was the video, and I thought they were just using a very high ISO, which gives that kind of grainy look, especially when at night it was just, you could see the pops all over the place. It was driving me mad. But that said, it was an interesting idea, and the guy has, made a movie. He got it on Netflix, and people were seeing it. So I have to applaud him for that and doing a lot of work to do so. So I gave it a 3.5 on the Netflix scale, and so that was my vote for it.
Oh, I forgot to mention that I gave it a 1. I mean, I understand what you guys are saying. I was like Todd in the beginning. It took me about 15 minutes to get into the film, and it caught my interest, but by the end, it was so convoluted. I had no idea what timeline they were on. It drove me angry. And by the end, I was like, fuck this movie. I just don't care anymore.
See,
like,
and I mostly followed it.
For me, I was done. I was fucking done. Like, I was just like, I just don't care.
I see you getting angry. I see you getting mad.
No, I was fucking mad by the end of the whole thing, because I'm like, this is so stupid. Like, he's poisoning his fucking Cheerios. Who does that? Cheerios are not to be poisoned. They're to be cherished, and you're fucking poisoning his milk so he can kill himself on Cheerios, drag his body upstairs, and he's trying to escape. I don't know what's going on here.
Then he figures out, and then he's like, he kills him the next time around, and he's always got the earbud in this thing, who's always got on a 3-second loop, which I thought was clever, because you always see him with that earbud in his...
Except he was wrong. Like, because you heard the conversation, and it was altered a little bit. Like, it was changed.
Because he missed a basketball shot. Yeah. Because that is a variable that you can't take into consideration. Mm-hmm. He made the shot the first time. He missed the shot the second time.
It was awesome. And that shows that chaos theory still applies, even in time travel, which is sweet.
Yeah, which was interesting. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some interesting concepts being used and thrown out there, which I thought was fantastic.
The cell phone thing, like which cell phone did I get to first? I get it. It has some really clever ideas, but I really fucking hated this movie. But knowing that it's a low budget film, first time guy, $7,000, I still want to fucking hit him in the face, because he could have gone with digital, which would have saved him some cash.
Some cash. I mean,
some cash. I'm not saying it's going to save him a lot, because if he gets a decent enough camera, it would have been pretty pricey anyway. Mm-hmm. But then he could have maybe invested some of the cash that he saved on lighting, whatever. But for me, I just couldn't. Oh, the sound was terrible.
Yeah.
I had to put on the subtitles. I am not hard of hearing, but because the audio was so
I always
bad.
use the subtitles.
Audio was so bad. I had to put on the subtitles, because there was parts where I was missing the conversation, and I had to go back, and I was like, subtitle it all the way. But yeah, by the end of it, I was just like, I don't care. I do not give 1 ounce of fuck.
He also has another movie on Netflix. I think it was on Netflix. I think it still is. It's called Upstream Color. It's very similar. Not necessarily a similar storyline, but...
This time they're not time-traveling engineers.
No.
They're time-traveling circus folk.
No, basically, he and his girlfriend, I think, wake up in the, like, some... And they're trying to figure out, like, they were abducted by aliens, or they were abducted by something. And they're trying to make sense of what happened to them.
We're salmon. We're swimming upstream. What?
Upstream Color.
Yeah, so that's the name of the movie.
Sure, I'll see that.
So
I was interested enough in this. I'd like to see what else he does.
Yeah, but I just find it interesting that just a guy, looks like he's in middle Texas somewhere, and decided that he was going to make a movie, and he did, which I thought was interesting. And
he's obviously a very smart dude.
Yeah,
I'm not taking that away from him. It's very intelligent, but fuck his movie.
Okay,
and there you go.
Well, if you
Let us know what you thought about Primer. Let us know what movies you guys want us to see. Facebook.com/WTH Podcast. Email us, WTHpodcast1@gmail.com, or let us know on Instagram under WTH Podcast. We're not exactly sure what's going to happen for next week movie-wise, but we're going to figure it out, and we will post it up on our pages as soon as possible.
There you go.
And with that, well...
Primer.
That happened. Though I think it's pronounced primer.
Primer?
Primer.
Oh.
That's what I heard recently.
Primer?
Primer.